Chapter 211. You really want me to die, Mom? Xia Ji remained silent. True, he was well aware that Muggle-born wizards could be just as talented as anyone else, yet deep down, he harbored a profound sense of prejudice against them. Had he not heard that his own descendants were nearly wiped out due to their adherence to pureblood ideals, he might never have doubted those very beliefs. Wake up already. 1,000 years have passed. Why cling to such outdated notions? Think of all your descendants who perished because of those ideals. Thank goodness I'm not one of them. Otherwise, I wouldn't even exist now, Xia Ji said indifferently. No, you are my descendant. All of you are. That's beyond doubt. Slytherin finally snapped back to reality. Since you two are the only descendants left to me, I hope neither of you turns against the other. No, I must kill Voldemort, Xia Ji declared gravely. Voldemort? That's the true form of this boy. Why must you kill him? Slytherin found this hard to accept. He's a deranged criminal deserving of death. More importantly, he's a major hindrance, Xia Ji replied succinctly and resolutely. My descendants are already so few. We can't afford any more infighting. Just then, Tom Riddle, who had remained silent thus far, spoke up. Revive me and I'll kill him. Voldemort may be dead, but I'm still alive. 057. Slytherin gazed at Tom in astonishment. Could a Horcrux actually turn on its master? Yet Slytherin himself had never created any Horcruxes, so he figured Tom's soul fragment had somehow developed its own consciousness due to some flaw in Voldemort's creation process. Tom's eyes burned with determination. This was his final chance. Only if Xia Ji agreed to revive him could he become a fully independent being. Otherwise, he'd remain nothing more than a Horcrux, forever deprived of freedom. Tom, can you guarantee that you won't become my enemy after being revived? Xia Ji asked calmly. You're stronger than me. Tom stared straight into Xia Ji's eyes. He even willingly exposed his soul to Xia Ji at this moment. All his secrets now lay bare before him. Tom, there's no need for that. We're friends, aren't we? Xia Ji suddenly smiled. Truthfully, even if Tom wished to oppose him, he'd be utterly powerless. Xia Ji had planted safeguards deep within Tom's soul, allowing him to erase Tom at any moment. Of course, we've always been friends. Tom raised his head. To gain freedom from his Horcrux existence, he was willing to sacrifice anything, including lifelong devotion to Xia Ji.
Ding.
System detects host has fully brainwashed Tom Riddle, rewarding host with 2 skill points. Hearing the system notification, Xia Ji felt elated, yet kept his expression neutral. All right, Tom. We should be going now. Xia Ji turned to Slytherin. Old man, I won't disturb your rest. We're off. He instructed Tom to return to the diary, then calmly stepped onto the basilisk's head. SSSSS. Come on. I'll take you somewhere to eat. Xia Ji lightly tapped the basilisk's eyes with his wand, sealing away its lethal magic to prevent any accidental harm. Slytherin watched as Xia Ji rode off atop the basilisk, then silently vanished into a shadow, as though this 1,000-year-old soul fragment had never existed at all. Only then did Tom sense the diary suddenly feel far more crowded. To his astonishment, he realized another spirit now resided within it. I've been asleep for ages. I'd like to come out and explore a bit. Slytherin's consciousness spoke directly into Tom's mind. Xia Ji glanced at his pocket holding the diary, chuckled softly, then guided the basilisk away through the tunnels, plunging straight into the Black Lake. A massive bubble enveloped him, keeping all the lake water at bay. Splash! The basilisk burst forth from the lake, charging into the forbidden forest. Though he'd cleared much of the Acromantula territory previously, numerous spiders had still managed to flee. And Acromantulas were precisely what the basilisk craved. Xia Ji had brought it here precisely to feast. Christmas had arrived, and this time, Xia Ji hadn't signed any forms requesting permission to stay at school. This holiday, he'd be returning home, and Nagini, currently traveling the world, would also be back for Christmas. Cassandra and Hermione had both invited Xia Ji to celebrate with them, but he had numerous tasks to attend to, so he politely declined. Though he could have simply brought home from Hogsmeade, he chose to ride the Hogwarts Express to keep Nagini company. After nearly 6 grueling hours, they finally reached King's Cross Station, and once more, he beheld platform 9 3/4. Numerous parents stood there greeting their children. Upon stepping off the train, Xiaji spotted Nagini at once. Despite the biting cold, she wore a sleek black dress, standing there radiant as if unfazed by the chill. Seeing him emerge, she smiled warmly. "Welcome home. Long time no see, Nagini. Did you enjoy your travels?" Xiaji noticed far more joy in her expression. Clearly, sending her on that journey had been the right decision. He then greeted Hermione and Cassandra briefly before taking Nagini's arm. Together, they vanished from sight.
Ahem.
"Stop staring. That boy's gone now." Mr. Vole noticed Cassandra fixated on the spot where Xiaji vanished, feeling deeply uneasy. "Humph. None of your business." Cassandra rolled her eyes, then tugged her mother away.
"Ah.
Has adolescence come so soon? She's already rebelling." Mr. Vole looked utterly dejected. "Ew. Master Xiaji has returned." Dobby emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron as he hurriedly prepared tea and a coat for Xiaji. "Dobby cleans Master Xiaji's and Miss Nagini's rooms daily," he exclaimed eagerly, welcoming them inside. Xiaji plopped onto the sofa. After months away, he truly missed home. With a home now, he no longer felt like a rootless wanderer in this world. Watching Dobby bustle about preparing Christmas fare, Xiaji refrained from helping. This was Dobby's heartfelt gesture, and interference would rob it of meaning. Dobby stole several glances at him, relieved to see he made no move toward the kitchen. Dobby learned several new dishes while Master Xiaji was away. "Dobby hopes you'll enjoy them," he chirped, eyes sparkling. "I'm looking forward to it, Dobby." Xiaji sipped his tea with a smile. That evening, the three enjoyed a lavish Christmas feast. Post-meal, Dobby promptly headed underground to feed the dragon. Truly, Dobby was an exceptionally capable house elf. Xiaji thus saved copious time on trivial chores. Later, Xiaji sat in his study, sketching and jotting notes while Yasairi dozed in his perch nearby. Lost in planning his holiday activities, he suddenly frowned, as though confronting some difficult problem. Snap! A crisp sound rang out, and darkness engulfed the entire house. Xiaji lifted his head, gazing toward the study doorway. A shadowy figure slowly advanced inside. He asked no questions nor showed surprise, as though he'd anticipated this visitor. Silently, he rose, circled his desk, and stood face to face with the shadow. His wand, Slytherin's wand, glowed with faint green light. Pitch blackness shrouded them, obscuring each other's features. They stood motionless, yet combat erupted instantly. Swish! A jolt of green light shot forth from the shadow. Xiaji made no attempt to dodge. Instead, he unleashed a blazing torrent of red light, the most potent disarming charm imaginable. Boom! The spells collided with thunderous force, merging into a blinding flash akin to electric welding. Calmly, Xiaji thrust his wand forward, effortlessly overpowering the opposing magic. The clash of spells rapidly tilted toward the shadow. The shadow visibly panicked, straining desperately to sever the link, but to no avail. Xiaji's control remained absolute. The shadow realized it couldn't break free from this magical tether. Finally, with a sharp crack, the shadow's wand shattered under Xiaji's spell. The figure itself was flung backward, crashing hard against the wall before collapsing. Xiaji flicked his wand. Lights restored throughout the house. Only his study had been sealed by magical wards. Nagini and Dobby remained unharmed, hence unaware of anything. Xiaji saw no need to lift those wards. He approached the figure, cloaked in black, face veiled, only its eyes visible. Now bathed in light, he saw it was unmistakably a woman. As he drew near, her hidden eyes abruptly opened. She yanked forth a dagger, thrusting it viciously at him. Clack! The blade snapped in two. Xiaji hadn't even moved. His shield charm rendered it utterly ineffective. She scrambled back, seeking flight, but froze mid-step upon beholding his face. Eyes wide, she stared at him in utter disbelief. Why you? Her voice trembled with emotion. You're alive. My name is Xiaji. Yes, I'm alive. Yet upon meeting me, you cast the killing curse. Do you truly wish me dead, mother? Xiaji tore off her veil, revealing a strikingly beautiful face bearing an uncanny resemblance to his own. Chapter 212. Moonlight bright, the perfect time to kill. Xiaji fights back. Do you really wish for my death, mother? Xiaji, words pierced Lys's heart like needles. No. Good heavens, what have I done? Lys collapsed to the ground, her face filled with panic, completely devoid of her usual composure. I never wanted you to die. In fact, I thought you were already dead. Xiaji continued watching her silently, waiting for her to explain. Ysiri flapped her wings and landed on Xiaji's shoulder, curiously gazing at the woman below. She could sense that this woman shared similar bloodline ties to her companion. The mission directive stated that tonight's target was a heinous dark wizard, one who had previously slaughtered over 100 members of our organization. He was extremely powerful. There must be some misunderstanding. Lys stared blankly at Xiaji, murmuring to herself. She had always believed her son was dead, yet tonight she'd finally reunited with him, only to discover he'd survived. Not only did I fail to raise him, but I even attacked him with the killing curse. He'll never forgive me. Overwhelming guilt and remorse flooded Lys's heart. A dark wizard? Interesting, Xiaji smirked lightly. Though they're right about one thing, I did kill over 100 people last time. But that's hardly my fault. They tried to kill me first for no reason whatsoever. Who the hell were those attackers? Lys stared at him in shock, her eyes eerily similar to his. How could a single child fend off 100 attackers and emerge victorious? Yet recalling her own battle against Xiaji moments ago, she realized her own strength was utterly insufficient. She'd been defeated in an instant. Under those circumstances, those 100 men deserved their fate. They attacked you? Lys suddenly grasped the situation. Why would they want to kill you? If the organization knew her child was alive, shouldn't they have informed her immediately? Why would they seek his death? Her expression turned grave. This situation seemed far more complicated than it appeared. Xiaji crouched down, curiously observing his mother in this life. I have no idea, he replied. Though he could foresee many future events, he remained blind to the past. Evidently, the decision to eliminate him had been made long ago, before his prophetic abilities reached their current level. Or perhaps it dated back to his very birth. I possess a bit of prophetic talent, so I knew I'd reunite with you eventually. But, honestly, this reunion isn't quite what I imagined. Maybe a tad less heartwarming. It wasn't merely lacking warmth. Without his current abilities, he'd already been slain by his own mother's spells. Had I known it was you, I'd never have attacked. My child, I owe you so much. I dare not hope for your forgiveness. Xiaji cast a nonchalant glance at Lys's eyes, then reached out to help her rise. Stand up. He wouldn't leave his mother crouched on the ground, even if she were a criminal. Please sit. Xiaji conjured a chair for her, then took his seat behind his desk, steepling his fingers as his dark eyes gazed silently at Lys. Seeing those eyes, Lys felt compelled to reveal everything she knew. Lys belonged to a certain organization, one whose name only she knew. Yet whenever she tried to speak it aloud, her memories blurred. Some hidden magic seemed to veil its true name. This organization handled diverse tasks, assassinations, bodyguard duties, missing person searches, even legal representation. Essentially, it functioned as a supercharged version of a jack-of-all-trades agency. Until meeting Xiaji, it boasted a perfect 100% mission success rate. Upon hearing this, Xiaji subtly leaned back in mock astonishment. Clearly, this world was far more complex than it appeared. Beneath the surface calm, hidden currents churned. From Lys's words, Xiaji learned his mother served as the top-ranked assassin within this group. She was undeniably powerful, not quite on Professor Dumbledore's level, but still among the elite T1 tier. That man who'd led 100 attackers against him? He stood no chance against Lys. Back then, Xiaji lacked his current strength and prophetic mastery, which is why he'd barely survived. Now, he could obliterate that man in an instant. Lys's successful strike against him had also relied on Xiaji's foresight. He'd seen the battle unfold beforehand. Both Lys and his father once served in the organization's assassination division. They'd rejoiced at Xiaji's birth. Yet months later, the infant fell gravely ill. No potion could cure him, and he eventually passed away. When his parents prepared to bury him, they were ambushed by enemies, and his body vanished. His father perished in the attack too. Hence, Lys believed him dead. Yet somehow he'd been resurrected and adopted by an orphanage. Xiaji speculated he'd likely crossed over at that very moment, hence his revival. Otherwise, it made no sense for a dead infant to suddenly come back to life. One detail caught his attention. The assassin sent to kill him wasn't Lys at all. It was Falcon, the organization's second-ranked killer. Falcon had privately delegated the mission to Lys due to personal matters. Logically, it should have been entrusted to Lys, the top assassin. Yet they'd chosen Falcon instead. Only one explanation fit. The organization had been scheming to kill him behind Lys's back. By sheer luck, Falcon had chosen to slack off, allowing Lys to uncover the truth. Xiaji retrieved a serpent-shaped wand and placed it on his desk. Do you recognize this wand? That's Gray Falcon's wand. Lys's eyes widened. Ah, so that man's name was Gray Falcon? He's also part of the assassination division.
Yes.
He ranks 10th among us. 10th, huh? No wonder he was so weak. Clearly, he acted under your organization's orders when he brought 100 men to kill me. Xiaji stood up. I'd wager someone recognized me and noticed my resemblance to you, hence their assumption I'd survived. They came to kill me. As for why, he smirked. My illness back then probably wasn't entirely natural either. You mean they poisoned you? And my father's death likely wasn't an accident either. He nodded. Perhaps he'd uncovered something, so they silenced him. Xiaji always assumed the worst of others. In this world, nothing happened without motive. A mysterious organization whose very name remained unknown, yet whose members were easily tracked down by enemies. Too convenient to be coincidental. Have you met your organization's leader? Yes. Where is he? I can't recall. I've forgotten the location. Fascinating, Xiaji chuckled. He'd just cast a divination spell, and suddenly, a blank void appeared in his visions, centered precisely on the leader. Evidently, he hid in some highly secluded place. Perhaps a location shielded by a Fidelius charm? Or maybe he didn't even exist within this world. Xiaji glanced at the moon outside. How remarkably bright it shone tonight. The moonlight is beautiful tonight, he murmured, then stepped toward the door. Lys stared in confusion. Why had he said that? Watching her son, still youthful in appearance, yet bearing an expression far beyond his years, she felt profound guilt. What hardships had he endured to develop such composure at such a young age? Where are you going? She asked. The moonlight's perfect for killing. Whom? Whom do you intend to kill? Gray Falcon. I can't locate your leader, but I know exactly where that man is. Perhaps he'll reveal more truths. Wait here in my study. I'll return shortly. No, I'm coming too. I must ask why he sought my son's death. Lys's eyes blazed with fury. She demanded answers about her husband and child's fates. Very well, we'll go together. Xiaji nodded. But we have no idea where he is, Lys objected. Though we're in the same organization, I can only contact him through specific means. I can't locate him physically. I happen to be able to see certain things, Xiaji replied calmly. Grasp my arm. We're setting off now. Hesitantly, Lys took his arm. Ysiri, with a thunderous roar, the phoenix Ysiri materialized. Xiaji seized her talon, and both vanished from sight. Chapter 213. Merely tormenting you is all I intend to do. Ugh, from within the basement, screams of agony continuously echoed, only to abruptly cease. The door to the basement swung open, and Greyhawk stepped out, drenched in blood, a sickly sense of satisfaction etched across his face. The guards stationed at the entrance hurriedly bowed their heads. Greyhawk let out a long sigh. Next time, bring me some stronger-looking muggles. This batch was far too weak. I barely got to play with them before they kicked the bucket. How dull. Everyone around him trembled in fear and obediently nodded in agreement. They had no desire to anger Greyhawk and end up locked in that very basement. To them, the basement was pure hell on earth, and Greyhawk was its demonic overlord. Whether muggle or wizard, no one who entered that hellish place ever walked out unharmed. Greyhawk waved his wand, instantly cleansing all the blood from his body. His gaze then fell upon a severed finger still clinging to his hand. His eyes darkened instantly. He would definitely avenge this injury. Xiaji had to die. Still, I've heard that Falcon has already taken on the task of killing Xiaji. That kid's quite strong, but given Falcon's abilities, he ought to succeed without issue. Whatever. As long as that brat dies, my vengeance is fulfilled. Of course, I still have other scores to settle with his mother. Though this list seems far too powerful, I'll need to plan this carefully. Just as Greyhawk pondered where to go next for some fun, a series of massive explosions suddenly erupted outside. Huh! A dreadful premonition crossed Greyhawk's mind. He swiftly stood up, preparing to apparate away at once. He'd always trusted his instincts. This uncanny ability had kept him alive until now. Yet he quickly realized that the area had been magically sealed. Apparition was utterly impossible. Gritting his teeth, he gripped his wand tightly and followed his subordinates outward. This was a rather lavish estate, yet Xiaji instantly recognized the numerous protective enchantments woven throughout. While Lys deliberated over how best to strike, Xiaji had already acted. He cast a massive anti-apparition spell, enveloping the entire estate. Lys watched in shock. Her son had conjured such an expansive anti-apparition barrier single-handedly, yet his face showed not even a hint of exertion. Just how powerful was this child of hers? Lys maintained a stern expression. Upon arriving, she'd realized Xiaji had chosen the right location. She even spotted several familiar faces among the guards. All were under Greyhawk's command. She'd encountered them before. Infiltrating the estate would require careful planning, though its defenses were formidable. As Lys hesitated, Xiaji raised his wand. Boom! Boom! Two immensely powerful explosion spells detonated at the gates. Amidst horrific screams, numerous figures were blown into bloody fragments. Lys stared at Xiaji in astonishment. She hadn't expected him to strike without hesitation. There were so many enemies. Lys stepped forward, seizing the wand Xiaji had just handed her. No matter what, no one would ever harm her child again. Just as Lys braced herself for battle, Xiaji had already charged in like an unstoppable force. To him, wiping out every single foe was the ultimate form of infiltration. Lys had intended to protect him, but she simply never got the chance. She followed close behind him, effortlessly stepping into the estate. Time and again, enemies surged forth to attack them. Yet alas, their opponent was young, yet utterly merciless. Without a flicker of emotion, Xiaji sliced through multiple assailants with Expelliarmus, sending those charging at him scrambling back in terror. Boom! Crack! Bolstered by his Slytherin-made wand, Xiaji's spells wielded unimaginable power. With each step he took, foes fell dead beneath his wand. Now, he resembled a true Dark Lord. His killing curses rained down freely, leaving nothing standing before him. Lys soon spotted Greyhawk. His face was deathly pale as he cowered behind the crowd. What's going on? Where's Falcon? Wasn't he tasked with killing Xiaji? Why are they attacking together? Lys, are you betraying our organization? How dare you slaughter your own kin? Slaughter my own kin? I'd ask you the same question. Why did you send men to ambush my son? Lys roared, waving her wand furiously. All who stood before her were sent flying by a single spell. Greyhawk's eyes darted about, shadowed with malice. He resolved to enact a feint. The cost would be immense, but staying here meant certain death. Not only was there Xiaji, who killed effortlessly, but Liz herself was beyond his match. Clenching his teeth, he prepared to execute his escape plan. Expelliarmus. Ugh, Greyhawk collapsed to the ground, clutching his arm in agony. Xiaji was no longer the inexperienced youth of days past. Sensing Greyhawk's intent to flee, he'd unleashed Expelliarmus, severing his wand-holding arm. Whatever questions you seek, I'll never answer them. Realizing death was inevitable, Greyhawk hardened his resolve. Surprisingly, though, Xiaji seemed utterly uninterested in extracting answers. He simply kicked Greyhawk over. Crucio. Greyhawk knew torment awaited him. The curse was expected. Yet as a covert operative of the organization, he'd trained relentlessly since childhood to resist Cruciatus. His resistance was formidable. In truth, ordinary wizards could never inflict pain upon him using this spell. Yet, when Xiaji's Crucio struck him, it felt as though he'd returned to his first-ever training session with the curse. The agony was far worse than he'd ever experienced before. Crucio. Watching from the side, Liz grew anxious, though she saw nothing wrong with using Crucio against Greyhawk. Continued torture might well kill him outright. My child, perhaps cease now? We'll gain nothing by killing him. I'll speak. Just stop torturing me. The once unyielding Greyhawk now resembled a trembling wretch. Do you truly believe I'm torturing him? And extracting answers. Xiaji sneered. If that's what you imagine, you're gravely mistaken. I simply relish tormenting him. He then pressed his foot down onto Greyhawk's face. I wish to experience firsthand whether tormenting others truly brings such joy, so much so that you indulge in it daily. Greyhawk shuddered in terror, speechless. He does delight in tormenting others, but never endures it himself. No, I beg you. Those who died at your hands likely begged you likewise. Xiaji spoke coldly. He'd already witnessed Greyhawk's atrocities before arriving. Unfortunately, the sort of individual who delighted in cruelty was precisely what Xiaji loathed most. They reminded him of that lycanthrope wizard who tormented him for half a year. You've surely heard of evil begets evil. Crucio. Please just grant me a swift death. Crucio. Stepping out into the now silent estate, Liz gazed at Xiaji's back, her heart overflowing with remorse. What horrific trials had this child endured to become so resolute, so unyielding against evil? She'd long believed her own heart had hardened beyond tears after years as an assassin, yet now, like any ordinary mother, she wept silently. Xiaji turned back, surveying the estate before raising his wand. A serpentine stream of violet fiend fire surged forth, consuming everything in its path. Watching the mesmerizing flames, he murmured, "You'll never return to your organization now, I presume." Upon learning her own organization had plotted to kill her child, Liz had no intention of ever returning. "Will you come home with me?" Xiaji asked. Just as he'd glimpsed within the mirror of Ariste, what he craved most was familial warmth and friendship. Solitude was his greatest fear. He yearned for a home alive with laughter and camaraderie. Thus, those summer holidays spent with his friends remained his happiest memories. Xiaji had secretly used legilimency to observe his adoptive mother. She truly felt profound remorse and hadn't intentionally lost him. Hence, Xiaji resolved to accept her. Of course, another factor mattered, his youth. Having a powerful, trustworthy adult to assist him would prove invaluable. A pity his biological father wasn't alive, Xiaji mused. He sensed this absent father would be immensely powerful, capable of offering him far greater aid. I cannot come home with you, Xiaji. Liz trembled. You know nothing of our organization's horror. I'd only bring peril upon you. Upon hearing his invitation, she'd longed to accept without hesitation. Yet she knew betrayal would ensure the organization hunted her relentlessly. If she dwelt under her son's roof, he'd inevitably suffer too. You overthink it. Since birth, your organization sought my death. You'd bring no added threat. Xiaji spoke calmly. A pity their leader's a coward. I couldn't locate him. Else I'd have slain him tonight. He recalled how this very organization's schemes had left him orphaned, later captured and tormented by that lycanthrope wizard. Such recollections filled him with lethal intent. Chapter 214. The Moved Dumbledore. But Liz still hesitated. At the very least, if she were elsewhere, she could have drawn some of the pursuers away from Xiaji. "Mom, I no longer wish to be alone," Xiaji spoke softly. Those words from Xiaji struck Liz's heart like a sharp arrow. She covered her mouth, tears streaming down uncontrollably. Eventually, she could no longer contain her emotions. She threw her arms around Xiaji, warm tears falling onto the collar of his clothes. Xiaji didn't pull away. He simply let his mother embrace him. He truly didn't want to be lonely anymore. If he could live a peaceful, happy life, who would desire a life filled with bloodshed and turmoil? From today onward, he now had something else to protect. In the end, Liz decided to stay. Nothing could ever make her leave her child now. Years ago, she had lost everything and lived like a hollow shell. But now, she'd found her child once more. She felt her life had regained its meaning. Early the next morning, Nagini and Dobby were surprised to find an extra person in the house. This woman bore a striking resemblance to Xiaji. Without any explanation needed, anyone seeing them together would instantly guess their relationship. "This is my mother. We were separated for many years, and only last night did we finally reunite," Xiaji introduced his long-lost mother. "Hello, my name is Lisi. Though, you may call me Liz." Liz smiled warmly as she introduced herself. "This is Nagini, a loyal companion and dear friend I met during my travels." Nagini stared at Liz in astonishment. It was truly surprising that Xiaji suddenly had a mother. "Hello," Nagini said awkwardly. Liz cast a meaningful glance at Xiaji, then eagerly reached out and grasped Nagini's hand. "Thank you for being there for Xiaji when he needed help the most." Her eyes turned red once more. "This is Dobby, a free elf, my best housekeeper and my closest friend." "Oh, Mrs. Summers' mother." "Oh." How should Dobby address Mrs. Summers' mother? Dobby was overjoyed by Xiaji's introduction. "If you don't mind, Dobby shall call Mrs. Summers' mother Lady Liz." "Of course I don't mind, Dobby. In fact, I'm deeply grateful to you. Thank you for taking such good care of Xiaji." Unlike many wizards, Liz held no disdain toward house elves. She even bent down and gently hugged Dobby. To Liz, anyone kind to her child deserved her utmost gratitude. She had no idea just how much hardship her son had endured all these years. Thus, every single act of kindness towards Xiaji was infinitely precious. Dobby was utterly flustered, nearly bursting into tears again. When had he ever received such respect? Back at the Malfoy household, he'd been treated like nothing more than a pest. In Dobby's eyes, Xiaji's home had now become heaven itself. "Oh, Dobby." Dobby has learned several new recipes. Dobby shall prepare a grand feast for Lady Liz to enjoy. Dobby joyfully dashed off toward the kitchen. Lady Liz then chatted with Nagini, eager to hear all about how Xiaji had lived these past years. Meanwhile, Xiaji wrote a letter and asked Yasiri to deliver it personally to Headmaster Dumbledore. Even though his mother had returned, that organization remained a serious threat. Though he himself feared them not, open attacks were easy to dodge, but hidden dangers were far harder to anticipate. He still needed a way to eradicate that organization. Given its size, Headmaster Dumbledore likely knew some details about it. Moreover, until it was destroyed, his mother's safety remained at risk. He needed to consult Professor Dumbledore. To his knowledge, the professor was the foremost expert on the Fidelius charm. It seemed today was a particularly free day for Professor Dumbledore. He had personally come over. It must be said, Dumbledore truly cared deeply for Xiaji. After all, he rarely ever came in person just because of a student's letter. With Yasiri's help, Professor Dumbledore appeared at Xiaji's home. "Merry Christmas, Xiaji. I absolutely adored the woolen socks you gave me." "Oh, though people insist on gifting me books instead, though I've already read them all." Dumbledore chattered on like an ordinary old man. "Merry Christmas, Professor Dumbledore." I apologize for troubling you personally on the very first day of the holiday. Oh, that's quite all right. I suppose I simply missed Dobby's sweet and sour carp. Dumbledore smiled warmly. So, is this your mother, Lady Lys? Of course Lys knew exactly who Dumbledore was. In fact, very few in the wizarding world failed to recognize him. Hello, Professor Dumbledore. Thank you so much for your unwavering care towards Xiaji. As you know, we were separated for many years. I missed out on so much. Lady Lys, it's truly wonderful to have reclaimed a bond you thought lost forever. In truth, I envy you, Lady Lys. Dumbledore seemed to recall something sorrowful. His tone carried a hint of melancholy. And congratulations, Xiaji. From now on, you'll no longer be entirely alone. Dumbledore spoke joyfully to Xiaji. With familial bonds now binding him, Xiaji was utterly unlike Tom Riddle now. Thank you, Professor. Xiaji invited Dumbledore to sit down, then served him his favorite watermelon juice. Though it was winter, thanks to his ring, Xiaji could store watermelons indefinitely. Dumbledore happily sipped the juice, then grew solemn. Xiaji, I'm fairly aware of your circumstances, and I know of that organization. As expected, Dumbledore knew of them. It made sense. Dumbledore possessed an incredibly vast network of connections. Given how mysterious this group was, it seemed unlikely he wouldn't know of them at all. After all, if they accepted missions, they couldn't possibly remain completely hidden. This organization is highly secretive. No one knows their true name. Yet their symbol is 2 crossed silver wands, so people often refer to them as the Silver Wands.
Dumbledore explained.
Lys nodded slightly. She knew how outsiders called her organization, yet the actual name itself remained utterly unpronounceable to her, as if it were a blocked word. I'm aware of Lady Lys's background. Now your safety is at risk, so the best solution is employing the Fidelius charm. Just as expected, Dumbledore brought up the Fidelius charm, an immensely complex spell that magically concealed secrets within a living person's soul. That secret remained hidden within the chosen individual, the Keeper, and thus could never be discovered. Of course, unless the Keeper voluntarily divulged it. As long as the Keeper stayed silent, not even enemies pressed against their windows could ever glimpse them. Years ago, Harry's parents had been protected by the Fidelius charm. Voldemort had utterly failed to locate them. Only after Peter Pettigrew, the Keeper, betrayed them did Voldemort finally discover Harry's parents' residence. By casting the Fidelius charm over your home, they'll never find you, Dumbledore assured. Very well. I'll be the Keeper. Xiaji agreed readily. Excellent. Let us cast the spell at once. Dumbledore understood urgency demanded immediate action. Professor Dumbledore, Lys suddenly called out. Xiaji attends Hogwarts, correct? Indeed. You're concerned about his safety, aren't you? Rest assured, students remain perfectly safe at Hogwarts. Without any arrogance, I can say that so long as I remain there, no one dares harm my students. Of course I trust you, but I've been separated from Xiaji for so long. Lys thought of how soon Xiaji would return to school. She'd likely only see him again during summer break. She wished to see her child daily, yet she realized her request might seem rather abrupt. Surely Professor Dumbledore wouldn't allow an outsider like herself to reside at Hogwarts. Don't worry about me, Mom. I'll write to you every single day. Lys nodded, though reluctant. This was the only option available. Seeing Lys's demeanor, Dumbledore's heart softened once more. Empathizing deeply, he imagined how he'd feel if his own sister returned. He'd gladly watch over her daily. He'd fear this was merely a sweet dream, one that'd vanish upon waking, leaving her gone forever. Wasn't Lys feeling the same? She'd long believed her child dead. Thankfully, he lived on and thrived. Yet she still feared this was all just a dream. Actually, I do have a solution, though I wonder if Lady Lys would consent. After a brief pause, Dumbledore spoke up. What is it? Lys asked eagerly. Anything that let her see her child daily? She'd gladly do it. Lady Lys, I've heard of your past profession. Thus, You're undoubtedly well-versed in dark magic. Of course. As an assassin, she knew dark magic inside out and was intimately familiar with numerous dark creatures. After all, skillful utilization of such creatures often boosted mission success rates. Here's the matter. Our current defense against the dark arts professor, well, he's quite competent, yet his teaching duties have grown rather overwhelming, leaving him overburdened. Dumbledore, with a clear conscience, spoke glowingly of Lockhart. I believe you'd make an excellent assistant, helping ease his workload. Naturally, you'd only teach first through third years. This way, his burden lessens, and you'd see Xiaji daily. What do you think? Oh, naturally, I'd pay you a full professor's wage. Oh, truly? I'd be delighted. You needn't pay me at all. I'd be immensely grateful just for this opportunity. Liz exclaimed joyfully. This way, she'd see her precious son each and every day.
No.
Absolutely not. Xiaji vehemently opposed it. Any subject was fine by him, but defense against the dark arts? Absolutely out of the question. Chapter 215. Professor Snape. You're not having some weird thoughts, are you? Xiaji, you like the idea of me being at school? Well, Liz was quite upset, assuming that Xiaji still held grudges against her and didn't want to see her around school. It must be said that losing and then regaining familial love had made Liz emotionally fragile and sensitive. No, that's not it at all. The position of defense against the dark arts professor is extremely cursed. There are rumors that Voldemort placed a curse on it, meaning no defense against the dark arts professor has ever met a good end.
Xiaji explained.
He felt somewhat angry. Dumbledore must have known about this curse, yet still let his mother take up that post. Xiaji calmed down. Dumbledore gently soothed him. Gilderoy Lockhart remains the defense against the dark arts professor. Your mother is merely an assistant. Do you understand what I mean? Xiaji had been so worried he'd forgotten what Dumbledore had said earlier. Liz was only an assistant, not a professor. Since Lockhart currently held the post, any curse would target him, not Liz. Professor, can you guarantee that? Xiaji still felt uneasy. I can guarantee it. Dumbledore nodded affirmatively. Hearing that Xiaji was concerned purely about her safety, Liz's mood instantly shifted from gloomy to joyful. Her son truly cared for her. Xiaji, even if this post really is cursed, I still wish to take it. I refuse. I don't want to be left all alone again, Xiaji replied earnestly. Upon hearing this, Liz burst into tears. Dumbledore also felt a pang of emotion. He recalled his own sister. Family love truly is one of the greatest blessings in life. After careful thought, Xiaji concluded that Liz being at Hogwarts was far better than staying at home. That way, he could stay close to her and protect her if anything ever happened. With him and Dumbledore around, Hogwarts remained quite safe. After all, he'd already dealt with threats like the basilisk. Glancing at Liz's pleading eyes, he finally gave in. Very well, Professor, you must promise me you'll protect my mother. Truthfully, Xiaji had grown weary of Lockhart spending entire semesters having students reenact scenes from his books. Proper defense against the dark arts lessons had turned into theatrical performances, an absolute travesty. Though he decided on Liz's role, he still intended to use the Fidelius charm on their home. That way, if danger arose, they'd have a safe haven to retreat to. He'd also send the Phoenix Ysiri along with her. Should any trouble occur, Ysiri could swiftly transport Liz back home.
Perfect.
As for his own safety, who could possibly best him? Besides, he always carried an old man with him. Even though only half of Slytherin's soul remained, it fought fiercer than anyone else. It would never allow anyone to harm its descendant, despite Xiaji constantly insisting he wasn't actually its descendant. Ultimately, Xiaji became the secret keeper of his own home. Unless he voluntarily revealed its location, no one else could ever find it. With everything settled, Dumbledore escorted Liz to Hogwarts. She needed to be introduced to the other professors, and Dumbledore also intended to have a serious discussion with Professor Lockhart. Dumbledore believed Lockhart would be quite reasonable. Liz met each Hogwarts professor alongside Dumbledore, effectively making early acquaintances. Without needing introductions, every professor instantly recognized her connection to Xiaji. Upon seeing Liz, Professor Snape grew visibly excited. Even Dumbledore noticed something off about him and glanced over curiously. Snape knew Xiaji was an orphan, meaning his mother must have died. Yet now, a living mother stood before him. Only one possibility existed. Xiaji's resurrection magic had succeeded. The thought of Lily possibly being alive left Snape ecstatic. Unable to contain himself, he generously offered Liz a tiny drop of Felix Felicis as a welcome gift. This only made Dumbledore's expression grow even stranger, though he refrained from asking questions in Liz's presence. Unaware of Snape's usual demeanor, Liz found him surprisingly warm. Despite his aloof aura, he seemed genuinely kind. Professor Flitwick, upon meeting Liz, tested her dueling skills briefly. Soon, the experienced wizard realized she was no ordinary witch. She was a true master. Flitwick was overjoyed, both for Xiaji and for his mother's reunion. Professor McGonagall, however, was moved to tears. She adored Xiaji more than any other professor. She'd always lamented his tragic past and had even considered adopting him. Now, learning he'd found his mother, she felt immense joy. A woman's intuition is sharp. Liz instantly sensed McGonagall's special affection for her son. Gratefully, she clutched McGonagall's hand, eyes red with emotion, thanking her for caring so much for Xiaji. In an instant, they became close friends. Liz, your son is truly extraordinary. I've never met a young wizard quite like him. Did you know he published a paper in Transfiguration today? It advanced the entire field of Transfiguration. What an incredible achievement. McGonagall hurried to her bookshelf, retrieved the special issue, and excitedly showed Liz the page featuring Xiaji's work. She wanted Liz to see her son at his very best. Tears welled in Liz's eyes as she read her son's paper. She'd heard of this groundbreaking study, but never imagined it was written by her own child. "May I borrow this magazine?" she asked eagerly. She wished to study her son's work thoroughly. "It's yours now. He's such a wonderful boy, though he's endured far too much." McGonagall softly wept, recalling Xiaji's hardships. Had Dumbledore not traveled to Albania and rescued him, the consequences would have been dire. "It's my fault as a mother. I thought he'd died. If only I'd checked more carefully." Liz recounted how Xiaji had fallen gravely ill, how she'd prepared his burial only to be attacked, resulting in her husband's death and Xiaji's body vanishing. Unlike others, Liz felt comfortable sharing these painful memories with McGonagall. McGonagall sympathetically took her hand. Liz had lost both her son and husband in one night. She truly deserved compassion. "You mentioned he suffered greatly. Was he mistreated at the orphanage?" Liz couldn't help but ask. If anyone had hurt her child, she'd make them pay dearly. McGonagall exchanged a glance with Dumbledore. "Well, you have a right to know. Though please stay calm. Things are now progressing positively." Liz's heart skipped. She sensed this wouldn't be simple. "Please tell me." "I promise I won't act irrationally." Dumbledore and McGonagall felt no fear. Xiaji had already dealt with those werewolf witches. Sighing, Dumbledore spoke. Before enrolling at Hogwarts, Xiaji was captured by a pack of werewolf witches. Werewolves. Liz turned deathly pale. Had her baby boy turned into one? She recalled society's treatment of werewolves and felt the world collapse around her. "Don't worry, Liz," McGonagall hurriedly reassured her. "Xiaji wasn't infected. He's not a werewolf." Only then did Liz breathe easy. What happened next? Though she knew he was safe now, her heart still ached. Thankfully, their leader sought to cast a spell transforming entire packs into werewolves, so Xiaji wasn't bitten. But that werewolf witch leader was a sadistic dark wizard who delighted in tormenting others. She tormented Xiaji for half a year. Suddenly, an immense surge of magic engulfed McGonagall's office. Dumbledore narrowed his eyes. He'd sensed Liz's power before, but this was beyond expectation. Such strength meant even Severus Snape couldn't match her. Now, Dumbledore finally understood whom Xiaji inherited his power from. "Where is that werewolf witch?" Liz spoke softly, her voice dripping with lethal intent. Xiaji killed her, Dumbledore replied solemnly. He loathed the idea of children shedding blood, yet he couldn't fault or blame Xiaji. Liz paused, then swiftly reined in her rampaging magic. Apologizing to McGonagall, she waved her wand to restore the office to order. It's all right, Liz. Any mother would react thus upon hearing her child suffered such horrors. McGonagall now grasped why Xiaji possessed such immense talent. Some gifts truly are inherited. Dumbledore then recounted his journey to Albania, his first meeting with Xiaji, and all that followed. When Liz heard that Xiaji's first words upon seeing Dumbledore were, "Have you come to kill me?" she finally understood his ruthless nature and his maturity. Anyone tortured for half a year would change, especially a child. That he'd retained his sanity was a testament to his innate goodness. She also finally grasped why Xiaji loathed Greyback so fiercely, and why Greyback met such a grim end. To Xiaji, anyone who took pleasure in tormenting others deserved to die. Chapter 216. Xiaji, Professor Snape, you actually washed your hair. After leaving Professor McGonagall's office, Liz followed Professor Dumbledore to the headmaster's office. I believe you should prepare in advance. Once the Christmas holidays conclude, you'll be able to commence teaching immediately. Of course, should you have any questions, feel free to come to me or Professor McGonagall at any time, Dumbledore said with a smile. I don't think we've met Professor Lockhart yet. Liz appeared somewhat puzzled. She had already met Professor Bubbage from Muggle Studies, yet as his nominal assistant, she still hadn't met the official Professor of Defense against the Dark Arts. Oh, I've already sent someone to inform him. He should be arriving shortly. Dumbledore settled comfortably into his chair. Please bear with me. I'm quite elderly now, and today I've walked far too much. Liz sensed that Professor Dumbledore didn't seem particularly fond of Professor Lockhart. However, Xiaji had mentioned that Hogwarts tended to have new defense against the dark arts professors each year. Perhaps this new professor simply hadn't yet grown close to the headmaster. That was Liz's guess. Knock, knock. The door leading up from the rotating staircase was knocked upon. Come in, Dumbledore replied, placing his hands on the desk, clasped together as he quietly gazed toward the entrance. Professor Lockhart hurried in, his tone rather eager. Professor Dumbledore, I believe I alone am fully capable of handling defense against the dark arts for all 7 years of students. I certainly don't require any teaching assistance. Lockhart immediately noticed Liz, the so-called assistant who threatened to steal his moment in the spotlight. He promptly fell silent, then flashed what he believed was a charming smile. So, this lovely lady is the assistant meant to aid me? Xiaji and Liz bore a strong resemblance, so Liz possessed considerable beauty as well. Upon laying eyes on her, Lockhart swiftly changed his mind. Liz smiled politely and shook Lockhart's hand. Allow me to introduce myself, fair lady. I am Gilderoy Lockhart, third-class Merlin Award recipient, honorary member of the Defense Against the Dark Arts Alliance, and 5-time winner of the Most Charming Smile award by Witch Weekly. Naturally, I rarely bring this up, but I'm certain you've heard of me. Lockhart began his self-proclamation. Professor Lockhart. Post-Christmas, Ms. Liz will be responsible for teaching students in years 1 through 3, while years 4 through 7 will remain under your tutelage. Strictly speaking, Ms. Liz cannot be considered an assistant to you, nor will you two have much interaction. Dumbledore mercilessly cut off Lockhart's flamboyant introduction. Lockhart chuckled awkwardly, his expression slightly embarrassed. Ahem, well then, as a gesture of goodwill, I've decided to gift you my complete collection of signed books. Only now did Liz fully grasp why Professor Dumbledore disliked Lockhart. Lately, Xiaji had been researching how to craft a physical body for Tom. Without a body of his own, true resurrection simply wasn't possible. Tom still had to face off against Voldemort in person. A mere fragmented soul stood no chance against him. Fortunately, Xiaji wasn't entirely clueless. Slytherin's old research notes contained abundant knowledge on this very subject. Slytherin's studies truly covered everything. Still, Xiaji suspected Slytherin had had numerous apprentices aiding him in his research. Given how broad his studies spanned, It seemed unlikely Slytherin alone could have achieved such mastery in every area. Xiaji resolved to extract several viable potion combinations from the blood fusion formula granted by the system, then blend them with Slytherin's existing body reconstruction formulas to create an improved version. At present, his revised formula was nearly complete. Only the necessary ingredients remained. Once obtained, he'd brew a body entirely suited to Tom. There might be a few minor unknown side effects, but that was acceptable. Hidden within the diary, Slytherin and Tom kept close watch over Xiaji's progress. Since Xiaji made no effort to conceal his actions, he simply left the diary on his desk, allowing them to view his newly refined formula. Slytherin murmured softly in awe, "This formula boasts an exceptionally high success rate. Truly, Xiaji's potion-making prowess has reached staggering heights. The combination of ingredients here is utterly brilliant. How did I never conceive such a thing in my own time?" Tom, too, felt nothing but admiration and closeness towards Xiaji. Not a trace of jealousy stirred within him. It seemed utterly impossible for any ill intent towards Xiaji to ever arise in his heart. After perfecting the formula, Xiaji carelessly tossed the priceless recipe onto his desk before heading off to bed, leaving Slytherin utterly flustered. If it had been him, such a precious creation would have been locked away securely. Yet Xiaji simply left it exposed on his desk. What audacity! What if a gust of wind swept it away? What if a thief stole it? Slytherin had no choice but to stay alert, acting as a bodyguard for Xiaji's sake. After all, this formula was vital. It determined whether his other descendant could be resurrected. As for Voldemort, Slytherin had long given up on him. He was a madman who'd lost all sense of reason and clarity. Slytherin doubted such a person could ever carry on his bloodline. Moreover, Voldemort had already been marked by Xiaji. Slytherin knew full well how powerful Xiaji was. Voldemort was doomed, his end merely a matter of time. It was far better to resurrect Tom and let him replace Voldemort entirely. Lys returned. All past hardships now seemed like mist. Now, she only wished to spend time with her child. This reclaimed familial bond was infinitely precious. Entering Xiaji's study, she saw him fast asleep on the sofa. Quietly, she knelt before him, conjured a blanket, and gently draped it over his body. Xiaji shifted slightly, curling up as he turned over. Lys gazed at him lovingly, her eyes brimming with tears. Meanwhile, in the bustling streets of Paris, a man of ordinary appearance strolled casually through the crowd. Though plain-looking and simply dressed, he exuded a peculiar aura, an unparalleled confidence and pride. Oops! A little girl suddenly darted forward, colliding into him, her melting ice cream smeared across his old coat. "I am so sorry." The girl sat on the ground, trembling in fear as she stared at the man. He helped her up, smiling gently. "It's all right. Just be careful next time. Had you bumped into a car instead of a person, it could have been dangerous." Seeing he bore no ill will, the girl quickly nodded and scampered off. Greyhawk and his subordinates have vanished entirely. Traces of fiend fire linger at the scene. Someone hurriedly approached him, whispering, "Understood. If they're dead, then so be it." The man spoke indifferently. The ice cream stain on his coat vanished instantly. "We believe Lys is responsible. She's likely uncovered the truth by now."
Ah,
"I see. How regrettable. It seems we'll need to re-rank our covert assassins." The messenger hesitated briefly before continuing. Lys discovered this because Falcon secretly swapped missions with her. Falcon. He didn't mean to. He truly had no idea. The man waved dismissively, chuckling. "Enough, enough. Do you truly view me as so petty?" The messenger visibly relaxed. Still, the individual who arranged to meet her should no longer exist. The messenger stiffened, then hastily nodded. "Understood. I'll handle it, and she'll never learn of it." The man waved his hand and vanished into the crowd, as though he'd never appeared at all. Xiaji scratched his head, then resumed writing in his diary. "I still sense something amiss with this formula. I suggest we perfect it further before use." "No, it's perfectly fine." I won't mind the slightest side effects. Tom stood firm. Having awakened his self-awareness, he wished to leave the diary at once. Fortunately, Slytherin now offered him someone to converse with. Otherwise, solitude would have driven him mad. Think carefully. These side effects remain unknown, and there's a non-trivial chance they could be severe, though unlikely. Xiaji persistently urged caution. He saw no need for Tom to rush so desperately. 50 years. Do you comprehend how I endured those 50 years? Had he possessed a body, Tom would have wept profusely by now. Very well. 5.0 if you insist. Seeing Tom's unyielding resolve and noting Slytherin offered no objection, Xiaji acquiesced. He wrote, I'll expedite gathering the ingredients, aiming to return by Christmas, so we can proceed. I'll also refine the formula further during this time. Closing his diary, Xiaji slipped it into his pocket, donned his coat, and prepared to depart. Snape had been gathering potion ingredients for him for quite some time now. They'd likely be nearly ready. Though the components for his blood fusion formula remained incomplete, procuring those needed for Tom's body reconstruction posed no difficulty. With Ysari's aid, Xiaji operated straight to Hogwarts, heading purposefully towards Snape's office. Knock, knock. Xiaji rapped on Snape's office door. Instantly, loud commotion erupted within, as though something had been knocked over. Minutes passed. Xiaji nearly dozed off leaning against the corridor wall before Snape finally opened the door. Hiss, Xiaji stared in shock. You're actually wearing that green robe I gave you? And you even washed your hair? Chapter 217. List your girlfriends are all here, son, come back now. Cassandra was extremely upset at the moment. She had intended to pay Xiaji a quiet visit, aiming to give him a pleasant surprise. Yet she suddenly realized that she simply couldn't locate his house anywhere. Cassandra had no desire to contact Xiaji via the ring. After all, if she reached out in advance, it wouldn't be a surprise at all. Once her stubborn nature kicked in, she resolved to find his house all by herself. She'd searched the vicinity multiple times already, passing by the Weasleys' rickety cottage 35 times and Luna's residence 25 times, yet still came up empty-handed. Right now, she felt like grabbing Xiaji by the collar and demanding an explanation. Why had he moved without even informing her? While Cassandra brooded in silence, Xiaji pulled out his wand. Professor Snape, what is the meaning of this? My mother has arrived, yet you're washing your hair and changing clothes. What on earth are you up to? Xiaji now felt like casting Expelliarmus on him. You've misunderstood. You'd better explain this thoroughly. Hasn't your resurrection magic finally been perfected? Huh. Xiaji stood utterly bewildered. Resurrection magic? After hearing Snape's explanation, Xiaji finally grasped what he meant. He slipped his wand back into his belt. As much as it pains me to say this, there is no such thing as resurrection magic in this world. Snape's expression instantly darkened. Silently, he removed his dark green robes. So, you were merely teasing me? Snape appeared quite displeased. I've made it clear before, I specialize in soul magic. You can indeed converse with summoned souls, but resurrection, even if I were capable of it, I'd never attempt it. You can actually do it? Snape grew excited once more. Did you not catch the main point? I did. You're capable of it. Then why refuse to act? Xiaji fell silent, gazing at Snape for a long moment. At most, I can bring a deceased individual back for a brief moment. As for full resurrection, unless I manage to overpower death itself, I won't even try. Upon hearing death, Snape's eyes dulled considerably. Xiaji never forgot the legends surrounding the Deathly Hallows in this world. Most claimed death was merely a myth, that the Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, and such were creations of ancient powerful wizards with no actual link to death. Yet having experienced the Forbidden Forest's illusions firsthand, Xiaji knew better. Such words must never be spoken carelessly. If there existed a realm for the dead, why couldn't death exist too? Such a being was far beyond mortal reach. At present, Xiaji certainly lacked the qualifications to challenge it. He didn't even dare use divination to glimpse death's presence, unless one day he achieved true immortality, fully escaping death's grasp. To recklessly provoke such a force now would be sheer suicide. Soon, I'll brew a potion designed to resurrect a fragmented soul. It's essentially an experiment. Perhaps you'd find it intriguing. Xiaji had no worries about Snape learning Tom Riddle was actually Voldemort. Post-resurrection, Tom would differ somewhat from his original form and perhaps even require a new name. The identity, Tom Riddle, would then fade into history. This ritual would undoubtedly serve as a powerful morale booster for Snape. Resurrection, then why? Snape yearned to ask. If Xiaji could resurrect a fragmented soul, why not bring Lily back now? This particular soul never entered the realm of the dead, hence no complications arise. Yet anyone wishing to resurrect someone who's already passed over must brace themselves for a direct confrontation with death itself. Frankly, I believe neither of us is prepared for that yet. Xiaji spoke leisurely. Besides, suppose the person you wish to revive pleaded with me to also bring back someone she cared deeply about. Would you agree? Snape froze instantly. Precisely. If Lily begged him to resurrect James alongside her, such odds were absolute certainty. Should Lily return, she'd undoubtedly demand James's return too. Don't be too greedy, Professor Snape. Simply having her back so you may confess your regrets. Isn't that enough? Snape stood motionless, speechless. Meanwhile, Liz was diligently preparing lessons for first through third years. Professor Dumbledore had granted her this opportunity to see her son daily. She fully grasped the principle of reciprocity. After all, she graduated as a top student from the academy herself, so basic defense against the dark arts concepts posed no challenge. Though her alma mater wasn't Hogwarts, but Durmstrang, she'd ordered numerous teaching aids. By now, her owls should have arrived. Thus, she stepped out of Xiaji's forest, intending to await them. Unfortunately, the Fidelius charm rendered locating the house impossible for owls, and she refused to trouble Dobby. The clearing outside lay close to the house. Should danger arise, she could retreat instantly. As non-secret keeper, she could flee back home even under pursuers' noses. They'd never locate Xiaji's abode. Moreover, she wasn't easily intimidated. Since beginning her career, she'd only ever been defeated by her own son. Just as she emerged, she spotted a furious blonde girl with blue eyes seated atop a stone outside the woods. Liz instantly tensed. Anyone appearing near her son's home at this hour was likely an enemy. Cassandra sat sulking on that stone. Xiaji's house lay hidden behind it within the forest. Yet no matter how many circles she traced, she couldn't locate it, eventually ending up right back at the forest's edge. Tease darn it! Moving without telling me? Is he avoiding me?
Pa.
I won't speak to him ever again. Cassandra gripped a twig, furiously whacking a wooden post, imagining it as Xiaji himself. Hello, how may I assist you? A gentle female voice rang out. Cassandra turned and nearly gasped. This exquisite woman speaking to her bore an uncanny resemblance to Xiaji. At first glance, she'd assumed her son finally gave in to his peculiar inclinations, opting for cross-dressing. Yet clear differences existed, identical faces but utterly dissimilar builds. Liz concealed her wand behind her back, its tip glowing green. She stood poised to act at any moment. As former top assassin within the Dark Arts Division, she'd never flee from combat. Striking first was always the wisest move. Yet this girl displayed sheer astonishment. She seemed acquainted with Xiaji and appeared barely 11, unlikely to be an assassin dispatched by any organization. Still, given the existence of Polyjuice Potion, Liz maintained vigilance. You resemble a friend of mine. Cassandra eyed the woman warily. Xiaji had been swamped lately, thus neglecting to mention he'd found his mother, hence Cassandra knew nothing of her existence. The friend you speak of, that's Xiaji, correct? Liz remained outwardly calm, though her body remained taut. Yes. And what relation do you bear to him? Cassandra grew increasingly irritated mid-sentence. I'm his mother, Liz declared proudly. Cassandra frowned. Yet from what I know, Xiaji is an orphan raised in an orphanage. Liz began to understand. This girl was likely truly Xiaoji's friend, but the Fidelius charm had obscured his home's location. Relaxing slightly, Liz spoke again. We only reunited recently. Are you a friend of his? Cassandra nodded. I suspect you've struggled to locate us. Why not contact him? You surely possess a means to reach him. Liz glanced toward Cassandra's ring. Xiaoji had told her. Only his friends bearing such rings could contact him freely. Then Liz noticed a flicker of irritation in Cassandra's eyes. This bond clearly exceeded mere friendship. Concerned for my safety, Xiaoji cast a special spell over our home, concealing it entirely. These past days, he's been preoccupied with matters concerning me. I imagine he forgot to mention it to you. Liz gradually lowered her guard, though instinctively gripped her wand. Xiaoji had gifted her such a ring, one only its true owner could wear, so this girl couldn't possibly be an imposter. I see. Cassandra studied Liz. At first sight, she'd suspected this woman to be Xiaoji's mother. The resemblance was uncanny, yet he'd never mentioned any living relatives, leaving her puzzled. Then she noticed a similar ring on Liz's hand, radiating familiar magical energy. This ring undoubtedly came from Xiaoji. He'd never gift it to someone unconnected to him. May I ask, why do you believe yourselves to be in danger? Cassandra couldn't resist inquiring. Just as Liz contemplated which details to share selectively, a small automobile pulled onto a nearby path. Liz spotted a lovely girl with fluffy brown hair leaping from the car, sprinting swiftly toward them. Cassandra, I can't find Xiaoji's house anywhere. And who's this? Hermione gasped upon spotting a woman strikingly similar to Xiaoji standing beside Cassandra. Greetings. Are you also a close friend of Xiaoji? I'm his mother. Liz beamed. Her son truly lived up to expectations. She eagerly anticipated meeting more girls later. Hermione stood utterly stunned. Like Cassandra, she'd believed Xiaoji's mother had passed away. Caught off guard by meeting his mother unexpectedly, Hermione blushed furiously, flustered beyond measure. Liz glowed with joy and immense pride in her son. Unaware his reputation had just been irrevocably tarnished, Xiaoji had just exited a certain professor's office and pilfered most of that professor's potion supplies. Then he noticed a note left by Liz. Your 2 girlfriends have come seeking you. Unfortunately, as non-secret keeper, I couldn't bring them home. Rush back post-haste. Updates are coming. Swear it, or I'll chop myself up to feed my tortoise. Chapter 218. No, they are all my wings, Liz, your wings are a bit. Xiaoji replied expressionlessly. No, they're not my girlfriends, but they're all my wings. Right, they didn't start fighting, did they? As long as they didn't fight, there's absolutely no problem. I'll be right back. You've got quite a few wings now. They didn't fight, but there's a blonde girl among them who seems eager to punch you a few times. Ouch, Xiaoji winced in pain. These days, Cassandra Vol's punches had grown considerably stronger. They could definitely hurt. Unnoticed, Xiaoji sent Cassandra a message. These past few days have been really busy. Finally, I've got some time to share some good news with you. I've found my mother. Here's how it happened. Professor Dumbledore even cast the Fidelius charm on my house to protect it. I'll send you all the coordinates later, so you won't be able to find it. Xiaoji feigned ignorance and added another message. He figured this might still be fixable. Next, he sent similar messages to Hermione and Luna. I've been so busy that I only now have time to tell you all. So, this really isn't my fault. It's entirely yours. Xiaoji thought to himself, quite pleased. But no matter who it was, trying to reason with girls was a grave mistake. I understand you, but I'm still very angry, and those 2 things aren't mutually exclusive. Grabbing Isari's claws, Xiaoji instantly brought back home, then accidentally ran into Cassandra and the others along the path outside his house. Sure enough, though Cassandra claimed to understand, she was still furious. Hermione, on the other hand, wasn't particularly upset. She hadn't arrived as early as Cassandra, nor had she been making repeated trips back and forth. Luna simply replied, Congratulations on finding your mother. I'm truly happy for you. Though simple, Xiaji could tell that Luna had thought of her own mother. Xiaji then led Cassandra and Hermione into his home. The Granger couple had assumed Xiaji would be spending Christmas alone this year, so they hoped he wouldn't feel too lonely, hence they'd brought Hermione along. As for Cassandra, there was no doubt she'd sneaked out behind her family's back. Of course, Xiaji didn't believe the Vole couple knew nothing about this. He'd already noticed the house elf Coffee lurking nearby, keeping watch. Yet once Xiaji brought everyone back inside, Coffee lost track of them. Panicked, she searched everywhere but found no trace of them, eventually returning to Vole Manor in sheer terror to report what happened. You couldn't find where Xiaji lives? Mr. Vole couldn't help but grow worried again. It might be the Fidelius charm. Has that boy gotten himself into some trouble? Why would he need to protect his home with such a spell? Mrs. Vole considered further possibilities. Their doubts were soon resolved, however, when a plump owl resembling a snowball burst into the living room, carrying a letter from Xiaji. The letter first confirmed that Cassandra was visiting him, reassuring them. Mr. Vole snorted upon reading this. Mrs. Vole rolled her eyes at him. Next, Xiaji explained that he'd found his mother, but doing so had attracted dangerous individuals, hence he'd had to use the Fidelius charm to safeguard his home. Though he didn't go into great detail, the Vole couple understood how serious this was. Even Professor Dumbledore had been involved, casting the spell himself. At the end, Xiaji mentioned he'd have Ysiri transport Cassandra back that very night, so they needn't worry. Only then did Mr. Vole finally smile in satisfaction. Just what kind of organization is this that Xiaji's mother got involved with? Mrs. Vole's curiosity was piqued. That's none of our concern, right? Mr. Vole cheerfully ordered Coffee to prepare a feast. Cassandra would be dining here tonight. This absolutely does concern us, Mrs. Vole replied gravely. If anything ever happened to Xiaji, I believe Cassandra would never be happy again. Oh, right. I'll look into this organization at once. Mr. Vole finally grew concerned. No, if even Professor Dumbledore takes this organization seriously, it's certainly no small group. Investigating it recklessly will only draw their attention. Then what should I do? I happen to need some extremely rare herbs right now, but can't seem to find any suppliers. Yet Xiaji mentioned this organization can help people achieve anything. Oh, I see. This Christmas, Draco Malfoy received many gifts, all of which he'd longed for. Yet despite this, the usually joyful Malfoy felt utterly unmotivated. Ever since seeing that beautiful red-haired, green-eyed girl in Professor Snape's office, he hadn't been able to forget her. He, Draco Malfoy, wealthy, handsome, and heir to one of the 28 pureblood families, had never felt such emotions toward any girl before. Malfoy believed he'd fallen for her, yet after that day, he never saw her again. It was as though she'd been nothing more than a fleeting angel in his dreams, gone the moment he awoke. He'd tried asking Professor Snape, only to be promptly ejected from the office. Then he turned to his father. Assuming Lucius Malfoy, longtime friend of Snape, would know more, he was disappointed. Lucius knew nothing of the girl or even of Snape's office. This left Malfoy deeply disheartened. Who is this enigmatic girl? Would he ever see her again? Lost in thought, even the lavish Christmas feast held no appeal. Suddenly, he recalled that day Xiaji had taken Ron Weasley to Snape's office, and from then on, he'd never found the girl again. Perhaps Xiaji and the others knew something about her? But Xiaji and his friends were his enemies. Malfoy found himself torn. Meanwhile, far away at Hogwarts, Harry sneezed violently, knocking over several chess pieces before him. A bitter wind blew. A gaunt, ragged man huddled in a cell. Through a tiny window high on the wall, a sliver of dull sky was visible. Occasionally, one or two Dementors drifted past in the sky. Yes, this was Azkaban, the very essence of hell on earth. His hair was wild and unkempt, his face covered in tangled beard, his eyes sunken deep into their sockets. His arms, bare beneath his prison garb, were nothing but skin and bone. He'd been in this hellhole for nearly 12 years, and yet he had no desire to leave. Not because he enjoyed suffering. No, he was punishing himself. Only by enduring endless torment here, until death, could he atone for what he'd done. Guilt consumed him. He still couldn't forgive himself for foolishly choosing that rat as their secret keeper. James and Lily, he'd caused their deaths. Thankfully, that rat had died too. His gloomy gaze fixed on the dim sky beyond the window. Soon, the Dementors would come to feed. Their arrival marked his greatest agony. His guilt and sorrow swelled infinitely at those moments. Most inmates eventually went mad here, but he remained sane because he knew, with absolute certainty, that he was innocent. Suddenly, he noticed something unusual. The seemingly unchanging sky now bore a hint of color. A tiny yellow bird, drawing a graceful arc through the air, it pierced through the Dementor's ranks and landed on a cell's window ledge. The bird stared at him with bright, lively eyes. Stunned, the man watched it. He'd been in this hell for over a decade, yet never once had any creature dared approach. Though Dementus showed no interest in other animals, no living thing ever ventured near them. So how had this bird come here? Straining, he tried to rise so he could see it better. Was this some hallucination brought on by impending death? Suddenly, the temperature around him warmed. The world seemed to freeze in place. What's happening? He rasped hoarsely. His cell was now warm, a sensation he hadn't felt in ages. Am I dying? Is this my deathbed vision? He murmured again. No, you're not allowed to die yet. He turned in shock. The bird was speaking. It transformed into a human, an 11 or 12-year-old boy wizard. Astonished, the man gazed at him. He'd always believed he and James were prodigies for mastering Animagus at such a young age, yet this boy surpassed them. Who are you? My name is Xiaji. I'm Harry Potter's good friend, the boy replied. Harry. Tears welled in the man's eyes. Guilt surged anew. How many years had it been since he'd heard that name? James and Lily's child. Yes, he must have grown up now. Xiaji. Why are you here? This place is no place for you. Go now, if they find you. Fear crossed his face. Chapter 219. The first step to recruiting Sirius is to make a bet. Xiaji came here for a very simple reason. The future held countless possibilities, and one of them was Sirius Black being killed by Bellatrix. Another possibility was getting him to work for him, thereby preventing Bellatrix from killing him. Xiaji hoped to alter Sirius's fate so that he wouldn't meet such an end. Additionally, should his company eventually be established, he'd need a capable adult to help manage it, and Sirius was the perfect candidate. Though his mother was equally competent, she currently wasn't entirely safe. Until that mysterious organization was completely dismantled, she shouldn't venture outside to assist him. Thus, Xiaji's true purpose in coming here was to recruit Sirius Black. However, he couldn't simply lay this out openly at the moment, as Sirius Black's spirit had already been crushed. He had to find a way to rekindle Sirius's will to live. You're Sirius Black, right? I came here specifically for you. You came for me? As everyone knows, I'm the most loyal servant of the Dark Lord. I'm the one who betrayed James and Lily. Aren't you afraid at all? Sirius replied with a mocking tone. Death Eaters? Last year, I confronted Voldemort face to face. If I'm not afraid of the Dark Lord himself, why would I fear you? A fake Death Eater? Sirius fell silent. Confronting the Dark Lord? Nowadays, kids sure do talk big. The Dark Lord is dead now. Also, how did you know I'm a fake Death Eater? Everyone says I betrayed James and Lily and killed Peter. I've heard tales of your deeds, how bravely you fought against Death Eaters while in the Order of the Phoenix. I truly can't fathom what motive you'd have to betray your closest friends and your beliefs. Sirius fell silent again. But what does it matter now? James and Lily are dead. All because of my stupidity. Why haven't you spoken the truth? You've been locked up all these years without uttering a single word of defense. I deserve all this suffering. My mistakes caused James and Lily's deaths. I deserve this punishment. Sirius clutched his head in anguish. Idiot, Xiaji roared. Do you have any idea what Harry's been going through all these years without you? What? Sirius appeared utterly bewildered. His aunt and uncle treat him like a monster, forcing him to sleep in a cupboard under the stairs. You have no idea how lonely he was as a child. Until he turned 11, he didn't even know magic existed. He had no idea why his parents died. Do you realize he believed they died in a car crash? Xiaji spoke coldly.
What?
I thought Dumbledore would take care of him. A child with no parental love. Who else would care for him? Xiaji murmured softly. It's all my fault. All because of me. He lost his parents. Damn it. Still don't get it? You're his godfather, aren't you? His best friend asked you to be godfather to their son, yet you chose to hide in Azkaban, watching your godson suffer. Isn't it your duty as a godfather to give him love and care now? Xiaji's words struck Sirius like lightning, cracking open his despairing heart. Yes, I shouldn't have given up on myself. I should protect his child. Harry, how is he now?
He's doing all right now.
I gave his aunt and uncle a little piece of advice, so at least he no longer sleeps in that cupboard. Still, he often cries while looking at photos of his parents. Oh, it's all my fault, but now I can't get out. Sirius regretted not defending himself earlier. I'll find a way to prove your innocence. You? How could you possibly do that? If I manage to enter Azkaban unseen just to meet you, I can certainly clear your name. Let's make a bet, Sirius. What kind of bet? If I manage to prove you're innocent and get you released so you can reunite with Harry, will you do one favor for me? If I'm cleared and can see Harry again, I'll do anything you ask.
Good.
Remember your words today. Xiaji handed him a small silver sphere. Keep this in your hand at all times. It'll protect you from Dementors when they come to feed. Take care. Xiaji transformed into a small yellow bird once more, flying out through the cell window and leaving Azkaban. Only then did Sirius notice that the frozen images around him had resumed moving. The inmates in neighboring cells seemed oblivious to what had just occurred. Evidently, this was some highly advanced concealment magic. No one outside could see what happened inside. Are modern wizards really this powerful? Even Dumbledore wouldn't be capable of such feats. Sirius began to believe Xiaji truly had confronted the Dark Lord. He gazed at the silver sphere in his hand. Without it, he'd have thought the entire encounter was merely a dream. Clutching it tightly, Sirius curled up in a corner like a stray dog. Yet now, he felt warm and cozy, no longer burdened by those dreadful negative emotions Dementors induced. Even when they came to feed, they seemed to ignore his cell entirely, as if forgetting he even existed. After leaving Azkaban as a bird, Xiaji brought back home. Peter Pettigrew could finally be of some use now, but dragging him out immediately would be wasteful. He needed to extract every last bit of utility from him first. Since he decided to bring Peter out, it'd be ideal to have him take the fall for something. Xiaji stroked his smooth chin thoughtfully. Originally, he'd wanted to visit Nurmengard to see Mr. G, but his visions showed that upon arrival, he'd coincidentally run into Dumbledore. In that future vision, Dumbledore spotted him immediately upon entering Nurmengard, furious that Xiaji had secretly sought out Grindelwald. Xiaji hadn't expected Dumbledore to keep such close tabs on that place. After foreseeing this, he promptly abandoned the idea. System, apply the 2 skill points you awarded me earlier toward mastery of divination. Previously, after successfully brainwashing Tom, the system had granted him 2 skill points. Now he decided to pour them into divination. Xiaji now fully grasped how vital it was to foresee all possible outcomes. Only then could he and those close to him remain safe.
Ding.
Congratulations, host. Your mastery of divination has surpassed 10 points. The system is now randomly selecting a reward for you. Xiaji's eyes lit up. Surpassing 10 points in any skill allowed him to receive a random item related to it. He wondered whether his luck would hold today.
Ding.
You've earned a divination pipe.
Huh?
What's this? Xiaji eyed the plain black pipe in his hand with some distaste. It felt heavy and warm to the touch, resembling something Sherlock Holmes might use.
Ding.
This is the divination pipe. The white smoke emitted through it allows others to witness the future as perceived by the user. Ah, Xiaji suddenly understood. Its function resembled Grindelwald's skull, which had once projected visions of a world war via white mist, stunning all those present. It's decent enough, Xiaji nodded. People in this world deeply revered prophecy. If he performed something similar at gatherings, he'd undoubtedly gain widespread support. Regardless, this pipe would save him much effort. Since visiting Grindelwald and chatting with him wasn't possible now, Xiaji resolved to stay home and enjoy his Christmas break. Cassandra Vole and Hermione didn't stay long at his place. He promptly sent them back. His home was no longer as safe as before. Keeping them around risked drawing unwanted attention. Luna, however, visited as usual, happily chatting with him and playing with unicorns. "Is that another one of your wings?" Liz observed him meaningfully. "Son, I think you're practically becoming a six-winged angel now." Xiaji felt his mother's perspective was too limited. Had she never heard of 12-winged angels? Regardless, no matter how many wings they had, angels were still just winged humans. The holiday swiftly passed. During this time, Xiaji finalized the potion formula he'd prepared for Tom. It should minimize any side effects. With this, Tom's potential would flourish post-resurrection, granting him greater odds against Voldemort. Voldemort was destined to return. Xiaji intended to exploit his revival for specific ends. Used wisely, Voldemort could serve as a valuable weapon. Christmas ended, and Xiaji returned to Hogwarts. News had spread. Professor Dumbledore hired a new teaching assistant for defense against the dark arts, tasked with instructing first through third years. Most students dreaded another Lockhart or Quirrell scenario. Yet rumors surfaced that this new Professor Liss was the mother of Hogwarts prodigy, Xiaji. His combat prowess during the dueling club was undeniable, so hope gradually resurged among students. Many approached Xiaji seeking confirmation, but upon seeing Professor Liss at dinner, they dropped the idea. The resemblance between them was unmistakable. Now, anticipation for upcoming defense against the dark arts classes ran high. Chapter 220. Xiaji, what the heck, Tom, what are you up to? The defense against the dark arts class for second years was scheduled for Monday afternoon. Gryffindor students would be attending it alongside Slytherin students. Many Slytherin students feared that Professor Liss would act just as protectively towards Xiaji as Professor Snape did. For instance, awarding points to Xiaji while deducting them from Slytherin. Meanwhile, the Gryffindor students eagerly awaited Monday's arrival. Compared to them, Xiaji himself was even more eager for tonight to come, because all the potion ingredients required to restore Tom Riddle's physical body had been prepared. All going well, tonight is the night I'll restore Tom's body. He'd already informed Professor Snape, who was quietly awaiting the evening as well. If it turned out that a soul could indeed restore a physical body, then the deceased could truly be brought back to life. If Lily can be revived, then even death itself won't stop me, Severus Snape. Xiaji chose the Room of Requirement as the location for the resurrection ritual, as it provided the perfect environment for brewing potions. At midnight, Xiaji conjured a synthetic tear, which then transformed into another version of himself. This Xiaji promptly lay down on a bed, pulled the covers over himself, and began breathing rhythmically as if fast asleep. Having completed this, Xiaji cast an disillusionment charm and left the Gryffindor common room. Snape had gathered all the materials Xiaji requested, yet he felt deeply uneasy. He worried the experiment might fail. Xiaji had explicitly called it merely an experiment. If it failed, the path toward reviving Lily would remain long and arduous. But if successful, perhaps he could obtain the recipe from Xiaji. Xiaji refuses to defy death, but I, Severus Snape, dare to do so. As long as Lily can be revived, Snape appeared almost delirious. He never once considered that if death truly arrived, it wouldn't spare Lily. It would reclaim her, and Snape as well, as a mere side note. Only if he possessed power capable of overpowering death could Lily truly be revived. Knock, knock, knock. Someone rapped on Snape's office door. Snape opened it. No one stood outside. Then, from thin air, Xiaji's voice spoke. "Are all the materials ready?" Snape softly acknowledged. "Then let's go." "Where do you intend to brew this potion?" The Room of Requirement. What place is that? Snape had spent years at Hogwarts yet never heard of such a location. When they reached an empty stretch of wall on the 8th floor staircase, Snape watched in confusion as Xiaji paced back and forth. Just as Snape was about to ask what he was doing, an ornate bronze door materialized on the wall. Snape's pupils contracted. The door's appearance was utterly inexplicable. Xiaji didn't hesitate. He opened the door and strode inside. Snape, filled with questions, followed suit. Upon entering, Snape felt an immediate sense of familiarity. This place was ideal for potion making. Yet all shelves around them stood empty, devoid of any potions. Professor Snape, it's late now. Could you help me prepare the ingredients? Snape's lips twitched. At Hogwarts, he'd always been the one ordering students to prepare materials. Never had a student dared to command him. Yet now, Xiaji casually issued orders, and Snape had no choice but to obey. Clenching his lips, Snape sorted the materials as instructed, placing them into empty bottles on the shelves. Truly, he was a genius at potion making. This tedious task he performed swiftly and flawlessly. Meanwhile, Xiaji had erected an oversized cauldron at the room center. It already contained numerous ingredients, and its greenish liquid bubbled steadily. Professor Snape, when I call out each ingredient, please add it, Xiaji stated gravely. Snape nodded, then waved his wand. All bottle caps sprang open on their own. Adding ingredients was simple enough. He'd never falter here. Xiaji raised his wand, pointed it at the cauldron, and chanted obscure incantations. Violet light shot forth from his wand, sinking into the green liquid each time. With every spell, the potion bubbled more vigorously. Dried nettles. Snape waved his wand, and pre-cut chunks of dried nettles flew into the cauldron. Wolfsbane. Dragon liver. Mandrake droppings. Giant toe. Unicorn horn powder. One by one, both common and rare ingredients found their way into the cauldron. Eventually, the potion turned a strange dark red hue. Snape frowned at it. This blood-scented mixture truly capable of restoring flesh? It looked utterly repulsive. Had anyone else brewed this, he'd have tossed them both out. Xiaji examined the potion closely, even sniffed it, then nodded in satisfaction. He then retrieved a small vial containing several ounces of blood-red liquid. This is the final ingredient, basilisk blood, he announced. Upon adding it, the potion erupted with a thunderous boom. For a heartbeat, Snape feared it might explode. Yet after white smoke rose from it, he saw the dark red liquid now glowed vivid crimson, no longer stagnant, but pulsing like living blood. Joy flashed in Xiaji's eyes. He raised his wand again, chanting spells. Time passed silently until he finally opened his eyes and spoke. Professor Snape, we must retreat now. Snape stepped back 5 or 6 paces. Xiaji then took out a black diary. From afar, Snape couldn't discern its contents. Xiaji pointed his wand at it, recited soul magic, and Tom Riddle's soul emerged. Yet this soul appeared chaotic, fluid like water, its features indistinct. Come forth, Xiaji whispered, waving his wand. The fragmented soul slithered like a snake, shedding its outer layer. The shell re-entered the diary, while the coarse soul floated into the cauldron. Snape watched in stunned silence. Xiaji had divided Tom's soul into 2 parts, the positive and negative aspects. He'd placed the good part into the potion, while keeping the malevolent half in the diary. Yet a soul required both halves. Without its dark side, it remained incomplete. Thus, Xiaji added his own crafted dark essence to compensate. From now on, Tom's negative emotions would mirror Xiaji's own. If Xiaji grew angry, Tom would too. If Xiaji loathed something, Tom would detest it as well. This method ensured Tom wouldn't grow excessively malevolent while restoring his soul's integrity, much like filling a half-empty melon with new filling to make it whole again. Gurgle gurgle. The potion reached a boiling frenzy, releasing thick crimson mist that shrouded the cauldron. Snape watched anxiously. This was the final stage, the critical moment of success or failure. Inside the diary, Slytherin's soul restrained Tom's chaotic, malevolent essence, awaiting the cauldron's outcome. Slytherin approved of Xiaji's plan. Tom's inner darkness was too pronounced. Left unchecked, he'd inevitably stray. Yet one concern lingered. Should Xiaji ever fully succumb to darkness, Tom would grow infinitely more dangerous. Tom, this is crucial. Visualize your desired body precisely. Any error brings dire consequences. Xiaji warned. This final step shaped the body according to Tom's will, akin to customizing one's appearance. The bubbling faded, the mist dissipated, and Xiaji glimpsed a crouched figure within the cauldron. Tom's body had formed successfully. Relieved, Xiaji exhaled. Though he could foresee futures, they remained fluid. Tom's form depended solely on his own wishes, beyond Xiaji's control. All he'd done was grant him this chance. Gradually, the mist cleared, and Tom slowly rose to his feet. Yet upon seeing his form, Xiaji's face twisted in shock. Holy shit. Tom, what the hell are you doing? Was this body salted? Or even salt-crusted?